Hey, welcome everyone and everybody to kind of like Game of Thrones light. Here is a place where I kind of go over a few of the characters in Game of Thrones, what class would best describe them in World of Warcraft, or what class they might just choose to play. So it's kind of like fitting characters with their characteristics. And since I'm not perfectly adept at this, I brought along, that's what I was going to say, I brought along Thamriyell.
Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Thamriyell. Welcome to the video.
How's it going there, Tham? Tham didn't see episode 10, so
Nope.
Anybody who did see episode 10, don't put any spoilers.
Please, no
in
spoilers.
Just
Please.
force them to watch it and put the spoilers in there. I'm going to get right to it. I'm going to go to the first guy. I'm going to go to Daario Naharis. I'm going to give a little profile on who he is. He's kind of like Daenerys' current booty call. But this guy I found to be extraordinarily fascinating character. He really is. He's kind of out of the mold of a swashbuckler, carefree, kind of very cocky, very, very confident in himself kind of fighter. And he's optimistic, and he is, quick with the comments here and there. He's just full of swag. He's a great character. But when you get a character like that in typical TV or typical movies, books, anything, they're generally not a fair character. They're not fair. It's all about them. They're very selfish, very self-centered. And this guy isn't, which is something that makes him very, very unique. So he's just very carefree, very charismatic, so cocky and arrogant, but yet he's got a strong sense of fairness, and he's pretty damn smart. He's a guy that kind of grew up in the fighting pits. He was basically sold into slavery by his mom. So you would think he'd be pretty bitter at the world, but he really isn't. I just find him an absolutely fascinating character. He's a tremendous fighter. He's the kind of guy that if he was in a fight and he was dying, if he found something funny, he would laugh. That's the kind of guy he really is. And I admire that quality. I'm thinking he could be a lot of different types of melee characters in WoW or classes in WoW, but because he's very quick on his feet, because he's very nimble, because I think he's kind of graceful with his moves, I got to go with Monk.
Really now? What made you say Monk?
Well,
is there anything other than what you
well,
just
he's
said?
He's not a sneaky stab you in the back kind of guy, so I kind of cross off Rogue. I could think Warrior, but he's someone who would rather wear lighter armor and be able to move around a lot rather than wear plate. I could think Paladin, but he is a sellsword, so I can't go there. I could say Death Knight, but he does have a little bit more loyalty, a little bit more in focus of what is truly honorable. So that's kind of where I go, unless I'm missing something. What did you come up with?
In Faithia, I'll probably have to say, if anything, Combat Rogue. Out of the three Rogue specs, Combat Rogue seems to be the one, that's less about, stab in the back or attack from the shadows. It's more like, able to stand their own. And I know a lot of Combat Rogues. My brother plays Combat Rogue, and I don't know why. Maybe it's a trend, but every single Combat Rogue that I met is extremely cocky, and sometimes for the better of themselves, sometimes for not. But yeah, I could see a Monk, but I feel like monks would have, a little bit. I don't know.
It's a tough one. You kind of sold me on the Combat Rogue because of the cockiness, and he is a pretty lethal fighter. He really is.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're right. I think you could go either way, Combat Rogue or even Windwalker Monk. Moving along, I'm going to hit up good old Jaime Lannister. Very, very interesting. I'm going to toss out a few spoilers, so hit the mute button. But these are spoilers from the early seasons. I just find him an amazing character because I hated him from day one. Here's a guy that pushed a 10-year-old boy outside a tower, which probably would have killed him, but instead crippled him. He's having sex with his sister on a regular basis, or at least he used to. Now that booty call is a busy phone signal. And he's someone who killed his own cousin in order to escape from captivity. It's the ends justifies the means with Jaime. But George R.R. Martin did something brilliant with Jaime Lannister. In spite of all those things, which I think everyone will agree, that is, total arrogant jerk off asshat, jerk moron, bad words, Jaime Lannister. George R. R. Martin completely turned that around and made you sympathize with him. And Jaime went through a life-changing experience, and suddenly now he's kind of leaning towards the powers of good, and he wants to protect his legacy. He really wants to erase that legacy of being the Kingslayer, which is just an amazing, amazing thing, and a very ongoing, recurring theme in Game of Thrones, and that is, do I stick with my oath and my honor, or do I back my family? Do I protect my family? Those two values often conflict in Game of Thrones. I mean, they conflict like two cars that are magnetically attracted to each other heading straight on. It conflicts with every major character, even one of the more beloved characters like Ned Stark. Initially, he basically chose duty and honor, which is serving Robert Baratheon over family. And yet, he's praised, he's admired for that, and it doesn't work out for him. And then yet Jaime Lannister chooses family over his duty and honor when he backstabs the king and kills him, because the king was gonna let him in the city and kill his father. Mm-hmm. Prequel to the story. It's very, very interesting. If it wasn't for the tainted honor of Jaime, I would have to say he's a paladin without a doubt. He's definitely one of the top three, if not the best sword in Westeros. But things happened. We're not going to get into it. I got to go now with Death Knight.
Yeah, I'll probably have to go with that. He's sort of, you can kind of see that he wants to, like, kind of be a paladin, but the fact that he has done so many things in the past, he simply can't. At that point, I would have to say he'll be an unholy Death Knight, which I guess would be kind of an opposite to a Red Paladin.
Yeah.
Except without Dominion.
He was on the path for Paladin.
Mm-hmm.
He really was. And then an unfortunate conflict of principles came into play with him. And who's to say? I think he made the right choice, honestly. But there are a lot of people that don't see things that way. And Jaime's not the kind of guy to step up and say, hey, but look at all the people I saved. I mean, he did say it once where he said it to Qyburn, and he was kind of questioning Qyburn's methods, his research, and how he was like dissecting people and testing them and doing all kinds of trials on people, mm-hmm. just to learn medicine, learn how to heal better. Jaime kind of frowned upon that, and Qyburn asked him, well, how many people did you save, Jaime? And Jaime looks at him dead in the eye, and he says 500,000, which is probably the first time that Jaime ever admitted to anyone else, let alone himself, that he saved all those people by killing the Mad King, because the Mad King was ready to light the world on fire. That was his grand finale, and Jaime prevented that. And a lot of people don't know about that. Jaime isn't the kind of guy that's going to stand on ceremony and say, hey, I saved you. Can I have a cookie? Good old Samwell Tarly, who's in love with books. Samwell is portrayed as a coward, but he really isn't. He really isn't. It's just a question of what he is willing to fight for. Because when the White Walkers, this is a spoiler from season 3, which I really don't care because you should have seen season 3 by now. It might have even been season 4. I'm not sure. But either way, he defeated a White Walker essentially by accident. But he was willing to fight to the death because he was defending Jilly. He was defending her child. It's all a question of what people are willing to fight for, not necessarily tag, if you're going to, it's not smart to necessarily tag them as a coward or someone who is overly brave. It's just a question of what you're willing to fight for. And Sam is a very learned character. He's someone that indulges in books. That's where he's comfortable. He knows he's not a fighter, but he's kind of like Tyrion in a sense. Like, Tyrion will say, I'm not a warrior. But yet he's probably killed more people than like Sansa, Cersei, and every other chick in the show added together. I mean, Tyrion's, kicked some ass in the show.
Oh, yeah.
He really has. And that's not something you would expect from him. And Samwell's kind of a very similar character, I think, to Tyrion in that respect. He's very diplomatic. He knows the politics of things. He sees the big picture. He knows who to align himself with. He's neutral good, maybe even lawful good. Really, really just focuses on the good. I really like Samwell. He's a tough choice, man. I mean, I could go with a particular caster, or I could go with a healer. That's where we're going. You know, he's not a rogue. He's not a monk. He's not a warrior, DK, anything like that. God, this is a tough one. I'm just going to shoot from the hip, and I am going to say that Samwell Tarly is a mage. Just simply because I think of all the learnedness that's associated with mages, and I don't necessarily see him as a healer. I don't see him as obviously a warlock, even though he says he wants to be a wizard. That's where I'm leaning towards. It's a tough call, but I got to go with mage. What do you think, Dan?
Well, when it comes to mage, what I kind of associate mage is like somebody who is more, I guess, more of an active role. I mean, if you think about it, mages are, they're casters. They're pretty much the power cans that plant the suns in the ground, just cast either arcane, fire, frost. I don't really think I could really attribute any of those aspects to Sam. If anything, I would have to say he's a prot warrior that has yet discovered how to use his abilities. He's kind of, he's not active in a role, but he is more, I guess, he's more passive-ish and he's more defensive. He's not gonna throw out punches. He's gonna take punches, and especially in like
he sure is.
Yeah, that's partially the one scene in the recent season. That's partially what kind of influenced this decision. He's the kind of guy that knows how to take punches, verbal punches and physical punches, and still stand strong. So I kind of feel like he's a prot warrior that's yet to learn how to use Bubba Hearth.
Well, I mean, now that you mention it, maybe I could change my opinion here, and I'll go with Holy Paladin.
Yep, I would actually agree with that.
Yeah, this is really going to confuse everybody. I'm not sure if I'm going to show the icons for the mage and for the prot warrior, and then I was like, no, screw it, it's Holy Paladin. Yeah, when you say he can really take a lot, but mentally, emotionally, physically, you're right. And when I think of that, I just think of the Holy Paladin, and that's what they're built for. They're built to take a lot of damage. They're built to take a lot of punishment. So we both agree, Holy Paladin for Samwell Tarly after we went the roundabout way to figure that one out. Next up, I'm going to go with one of my favorite characters who pretty much is twisted as far as her persona is, as far as whether or not you like her or you don't like her, is Melisandre, the Red Priestess. Here's a chick that definitely reminds me of that. Stan, did you ever see the movie Breakfast Club?
Yes, I have.
She kind of reminds me of Ali Sheedy in that movie. You know, the not the redhead girl, but the other girl who's just kind of estranged from the group in the beginning.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
She does.
Isn't that good? Yeah. I'd love to see this woman's childhood. It's got to be some of the most screwed up stuff, like almost something that Stephen King would invent. She is a really, really twisted character. I think I'm starting to realize that she's kind of a novice in her powers. I don't even think she knows what she's capable of yet. I don't even think she knows what her strengths or weaknesses are. I think she kind of has this little inkling that I have this magic ability, but doesn't quite feel like she's in touch with it. The backstory of this is there's this prophet who's kind of like a Jesus character who's supposed to be reborn into Westeros, and she believes that character is Stannis, according to all the prophecies, et cetera, et cetera. That's why she migrates to Stannis. That's why she's so supportive of Stannis. But things change, and she's not always accurate with her magic. She's not always accurate with what it is that she's interpreting. She's missing things. So it's very, very murky area with her. Sometimes she'll do the wrong thing thinking she's doing it for the right reasons, and sometimes she'll do the right thing for the wrong reasons. There's just something very, very human about her. She's almost like a kid with a loaded gun that she doesn't know necessarily what she's going to do. This is a tough call because I'm deadly split between Shadow Priest and Warlock. But there's this mysteriousness about her, this not really sure of her powers, which is very much Shadow Priest, so I'm going with Shadow Priest.
I would have to lean more towards Warlock, however, because although Shadow Priest will actually, like a lot of attributes of Shadow Priest will kind of fit her, I feel like she is more. I don't know. There's there's a destructive nature about it. It looks like she will be able, if she actually knew what she was capable of, she could set the world on fire with a snap of her fingers. She just still dabbling a little bit with it, and I feel like
it's interesting how we came across. Like we kind of thought she knew what she was doing, like she was the CEO of the company and she knew what she was doing the whole time. But now we're realizing she doesn't. So go on. What were you saying?
Yeah, I don't know, especially with the whole fire thing. Actually, kind of makes me think of Destruction Warlock. The fire that she uses is not really, to, I guess, for, I don't know, the self benefits. More used for, I guess, destruction of the society. I mean, especially when she, well, spoilers for any of you that haven't watched it, go watch it. When she birthed that demon thing, at first thing I thought, it's kind of a mix of like Affliction Warlock and Demonology Warlock giving birth to an abomination. And she literally just summoned it. She practically just summoned this entity that went out and killed somebody. Just like that. And like, no problem. She's like, okay, let's go ahead and do it again. She looks like the kind of person that could actually use that to her advantage. And like, I don't know, just destroy the world. Her nature and the abilities that she possesses, they're not really as like support or full like attack. It's more like, if anything, I would say it would be more like destruction of the entire society from within rather than, physical destruction.
You know what? I changed my mind. This time you convinced me. I'm gonna go with Destro Warlock. The one reason I didn't go with Warlock was because I associate minions with Warlocks, and I thought that Wraith that she created that went after Renly Baratheon kind of looked like a Shadow Fiend, but you convinced me. Warlocks don't always have pets right now. They don't have minions right now. You can play that kind of Warlock, and that's becoming more and more mainstay. So yeah, Destro Warlock, maybe with a touch of Affliction if they're not really if they burned everything already. Okay.
And partially, the thing is about Shadow Priest, even though, like, okay, let's say we talked about the other Lannister in last video, and we said he was more, I'm just not good with names. I'm great with faces, just absolutely awful with names. It just something, I don't know. I'm trying to fix that. I can't really do it. No, anyway, he is, when I think of Shadow Priest, I really relate them to, a higher being, a higher purpose, a higher, I guess, religion that they follow, a kind of, I guess, faith that they follow, which is why I can really, well, although I do understand that she has, she has a great faith in the great God, and, the fire is, follow the fire, fire is the way, all that stuff. Fire is like the great sign of the great deity, except she understands the political, I guess, construction of the society and really knows how to break it down, which is more destructive than, I don't know, she's more destructive to the enemies than constructive to the allies and, Stannis. So this is why I kind of relate her more towards, being a warlock, because they're more of, destruction from what the entity is rather than, bolstering allies.
A minor character, one of my favorite characters, who's still alive, is Brynden Tully. Ironically, at the Red Wedding, he just went out to take a piss, and nobody ever heard from him again. And believe me, anything can happen on Game of Thrones, but generally, they just don't. If somebody dies, they take advantage of it, and they show it to you. I don't think he's dead. He's still alive. He was a very rugged, very fierce. He tried to keep things inside, but he would just burst whenever he saw stupidity or laziness or outright incompetence. It was the kind of thing that drove him crazy. Otherwise, he pretty much kept his cool. He had this ongoing feud with Catelyn Stark's father, Hollister Tully, for many years. They were brothers. They were at odds with each other. I still think they were living in the Riverlands together, but they just really hated each other and really were at odds with like two neighbors, almost fighting with each other, that sort of thing. And he's a great warrior. He's been in all the big battles in Westeros. He's a seasoned warrior. He knows right from wrong. He's an honorable man. He's kind of the blue-collar guy persona, but he's also a noble. He's got the best qualities of both. just because of his slickness with an arrow, that, how he was introduced was just simply amazing with Catelyn Stark's younger brother, Edmure, try to figure out how to shoot a bow and arrow, as his father's floating down the river so he could light it on fire. And just Brynden just like pushes him aside, and he just tests the wind, and he draws back the bow, and he shoots the fire arrow, which seemed to go like a country mile and then hit, his brother's boat floating out there. I mean, it was just a great way to introduce a character. Just says, wow, this guy is epic. I'm going with Lone Wolf Hunter.
Same. I'll have to go with that as well. I even got a picture of him right now with a bow and everything. Looks really cool. So if anything, I have to definitely say Marksman Hunter. I like how you brought up the fact that he is the kind of guy that, he doesn't take, I guess, irresponsibility. He doesn't take people who are not active in the role exactly, He's not going to give them the full respect that they deserve, because if they're not active in the role, why are they in the position that they are? He's not patient for the people that lack the ability to, I don't know, advance and go forward. And I think that really describes him as as a hunter, especially a marksman hunter. He's like the lone wolf marksman hunter, those exact traits.
Yeah, he really does. He really does figure into those traits. And with him, just because you're born a noble doesn't necessarily mean he's going to bend the knee. You have to earn his respect. And I would love to see this particular character come back in some capacity. He is still alive, I'd imagine. Hopefully, maybe they will bring him back. Well, Tham, tell us a little bit about what you do on your channel. Go check out Thamriyell's channel. He plays. Tell him what games you play.
Oh man, I got a list on my whiteboard and everything. I play Guild Wars 2, ESO, Final Fantasy 14, which actually also just recently came out with the new expansion Heaven's Ward, which I'm going to be exploring very soon, as soon as I reach level 50 and get into the big zone and fly chocobos and stuff like that. I'm also playing Skyrim Modded Adventure, where I just remod the entire adventure to be more of a survival difficulty adventure. I'm also playing right now, dabbling with Oblivion, Elder Scrolls Oblivion, and Fallout New Vegas. And yeah, I make a lot of Let's Plays. Way too many for me to usually handle, but it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, so if anyone is looking for any other games to play, it's always a great way to preview a game by watching someone play a game. Until then, this is Luxley saying, whatever it is by you, morning, afternoon, or night, make it epic, make it great. Thamriyell and Luxley saying, have a great one.
See you, everyone.